We had a very constructive conversation. We appreciate the Trump administration facilitating this literally in the last minute, and we're grateful. We listened, we communicated, and we look forward to further conversations.
Who did you speak with exactly?
I'd rather not disclose that. High-ranking Trump administration.
Is it James Blair, sir? That has been reported already. It'd be great to get a name out there so we can confirm it for the public.
Well, I'm not at liberty to say, to be frank with you, but it's a very high-ranking administration.
What is the
Premiers, did they give you a sense of how Canada can stave off tariffs? What Canadians, what the government, what the premiers can do?
Well, it's a good conversation, back and forth, and it was a very positive conversation. So we'll see how we move forward, and once all their secretaries get sworn in, then we can move forward. But do you have any comments,
Was it just one member of the administration? Just one or several? Can you just give us a sense that we would
just a couple people. Okay.
And I think that's the next thing that you can look forward is the Secretary of Commerce will be sworn in. Minister LeBlanc will be working with him, and premiers will be supporting that work and reaching out and doing our own advocacy like we have been for the last day or two.
How long was the meeting, approximately?
Well, since you saw us walk in to right now.
Okay, we didn't know if you got in right away, so over an hour.
They were very generous, and we're very grateful, by the way. People don't get last-minute meetings like this, so we're very grateful, and it just shows the relationship that we have and the respect they have in Canada, regarding Canada. And they've said it numerous times, how they respect Canada, and really appreciate the friendship over the years. François, over to you.
Yeah, peut-être en français. Y a-t-il des gens qui sont pour en français? En anglais, in English. But we had, like Doug said, we had a good conversation with two people, high level, and we discussed ways to come back with a good relationship between Canada and U.S. and I think we had answers or ways to progress.
Yeah, thank you.
What are those ways? What are those ways? What? Forward this way.
Oh, this way?
What, you didn't pop in, Premier?
This is last minute. No, but
Premier Eby, who did you meet with and what did you talk about?
We had good conversations with the Deputy Chief of Staff, and he's also the head of policy, and as well as Sergio is doing the hiring for a lot of the White House staff, senior White House advisors. I think the dominant impression is that it was a very significant day at the White House, and yet they still sent two senior reps to meet with us. It was a good conversation. I thought it was constructive. There were some very frank moments across the table. And they urged us to take the president at his word, and so we will certainly do that.
What do you mean? Feel that the tariffs are coming or inevitable when you say take the president at his word?
Well, when he talks about his concern about the border, about issues of fentanyl, the need for us to work on those things, that we should take that very seriously. That the engagement that he's having is about ensuring that the United States is respected and not taken advantage of in terms of trade and relations around the world, and that we should see things through that lens, and so we shall.
Are any of the things that we're doing moving the needle in any way, like the fentanyl czar, et cetera?
Well, my impression was that there was an understanding that what Canada had done around the border had caught the president's attention, resulted in the pause, but that work needed to continue, and that we should continue to return for these meetings and discussions, especially once the key personnel were confirmed, for us to be able to engage with a little more constructively.
I understand that Canadian premiers are paying $85,000 a month for lobbying here in Washington. Are we getting bang for our buck there? Are these meetings significant enough to pay that kind of money?
Well, I think it's really important that we're in these rooms and we're having these conversations with key personnel. This was a meeting on short notice with senior decision makers in the White House on a day in which the president's actively engaged with Ukraine and Russia. So I was glad for the conversation. I'm glad they made the time, and we'll continue to have this engagement.
You mentioned frank discussions. What frank aspects did you put forward? Did the premiers put forward? Was there any concerns about Trump's ongoing comments about Canada being the 51st state?
Yeah, we had frank conversations where about the 51st state comment, where we underlined that was a non-starter. That was obviously consistent among all the premiers, and for my part, just underlining how important it was to share information and concerns related to fentanyl on the border with the premiers as well. There are enforcement actions that we can take to make sure that information is flowing. If these are the key points of frustration for the president, we want to take action on those things too.
Premier EB, I think the public might find it weird that you're not saying who you met with. Was there some sort of agreement that you weren't going to name the officials? Like, why can't you just tell us who you met with?
Yeah, no, it's James Blair and Sergio. I forget Sergio's last name. He's the head of personnel for the White House.
Apologize.
No, that's all right. Yeah, no, I understand they would find that weird. We knew we were meeting with Mr. Blair. We didn't know we would be meeting with Sergio as well. It was a very fluid moment, and we weren't sure who was going to come in actually.
And did they promise to send your message back to the president? I think there's a lot of questions about whether it's actually getting through to the person who makes the decision.
Yep, they committed to share our message of willingness to engage and to work on key areas of agreement, and that Canada would never be the 51st state.
One more question.
What happens now? You've had your meeting. Did you pledge to talk again in the future? Are you going to come up with some sort of other kind of security plan to discuss?
Yeah, their key suggestion for us was once their key personnel were confirmed, the Commerce Secretary, Trade Secretary, that will be in a much better position to engage, and that we should continue to meet and come back, especially once that had happened.
Okay.
Thanks very much, everybody.
Thank you.
Hearing there from some of Canada's premiers as they leave their meeting at the White House with some senior White House officials, part of Canada's effort to get tariffs staved off. Listening to this, someone we've been waiting to speak to, someone that the premiers also met with today, Tim Kennedy. He's a New York Democratic congressman, and he had meetings with the premiers of Washington and Quebec. Thank you very much for making the time. Thank you very much for your patience, Congressman. What was your key takeaway from the conversations you had with Canadians?
Well, first of all, I'm really pleased to be with you here tonight and thankful that the premiers took times out of their busy schedules to join us here in Washington, D.C. to get the word out about how detrimental these tariffs will be to both Canadians and Americans alike. They would be mutually disastrous on both sides of the border. We have been standing up together and fighting back against these needless, nonsensical tariffs. And because of us spreading the word, because of us standing up for ourselves, we got the administration to relent, at least temporarily. And that was last week, by the way, within 36 hours of signing those tariffs to begin with. And so what we need to do is we need to be diligent. We need to continue to tell the story and spread the word about how detrimental these will be to jobs in Canada, to jobs in the United States, to the economy on both sides of the border, to businesses, and to everyday consumers who want to see the price of goods and services come down. This will cause goods and services to skyrocket. It's exactly opposite of what the administration promised they would do, is lower the costs of goods and services across the United States while they were on the campaign. And so the idea that these tariffs would somehow do anything productive is, to me, mind-boggling. And it's right in line with what the Trump administration has been doing out of the gate for the last now 23 days.
So what you are saying, as I'm sure you know, music to the ears of many Canadians, a widely held opinion in this country. When you hear what the premiers are saying coming out of this meeting, that they were told to take Donald Trump at his word, that they listened and communicated, do you have any sense that both the efforts you talk about and what you just heard, that this is going to move the dial in any way right now?
Well, look, Donald Trump is the president of the United States, but Donald Trump doesn't speak for all of America. He certainly doesn't speak for me. He certainly doesn't speak for those, especially on the northern border, that we recognize the shared economy that we have with our Canadian allies and partners, the greatest friendship in the world, quite frankly. Not just our history, but our present day commerce and friendship across the border each and every day.
But a friendship that's being damaged, Congressman, certainly.
Yeah, well, look at, the president has a big voice, but he's not the only voice. And that's why this is important for the premiers to be here, to meet with the White House, to remind them that, while President Trump is the president of the United States, duly elected in this moment, he has to be mindful of the people of this great country who he is supposed to be standing up and representing. And when he is putting in tariffs that will dismantle the agreement that he himself signed just 6 years ago, that says a lot about his own word and what to expect about that. I don't personally take this president at his word. I'm actually question everything he says. He's lied enough on the campaign trail. He's certainly tried to put too many illegal executive orders forward thus far that have been pushed back upon by the courts in the United States. Thankfully, by the way, in both a Republican and Democratic federal judges that have pushed back. His own appointees have stalled his executive orders, calling them illegal. President Reagan, President George W. Bush, President George H.W. Bush, and President Trump, along with Democratic presidents' appointees to the bench, have pushed back upon these illegal executive orders that President Trump has put forward. So the bottom line is, Canada has a lot of allies in the United States that are cognizant of the economic, cultural, historical, and present-day alliances that we share, and we're going to be standing up and fighting for a continuation of the greatest alliance on the planet between the United States and Canada.
So one of the things you say, don't take him at his word. One of the things Canada has invested a lot of money and effort into is Donald Trump's concerns about the borders, a $1.3 billion border plan. We've just created the position of fentanyl czar, and the government has appointed someone to that position. Do you think that this is about the border, that those are wise investments for Canadians at this moment?
Well, I think any way that we can work together to resolve the issues on both sides of the border is time and money well spent. I also believe that this administration, the Trump administration, has an obligation to deal with immigration in a comprehensive bipartisan fashion. We had the placeholder roadmap for that was already negotiated months ago in the fall before the election. Donald Trump dismantled that and took it right off the tracks as it was being prepared to be voted on. This administration has an obligation to the American people and the people of the globe to resolve the immigration problem in the United States of America. To this point, they have done nothing to do so. And while they're playing petty politics with, be it tariffs or birthright citizenships or freezing the federal funding for the workforce or trying to buy out the workforce illegally or a cadre of other illegal actions that this president has tried to do, they have done absolutely nothing to lower the cost of goods and services, lower the cost at the gas pump, lower the cost of groceries, lower the cost and make housing more accessible and affordable. They've done nothing that they've promised to do. They have an obligation to do so, and we're going to be holding them accountable. So the fact that the leaders of the Canadian government were here in Washington today, not only meeting with the White House, but meeting with myself as the co-chair of the Northern Border Caucus. I represent the state of New York. I represent the Buffalo-Niagara region. I have 4 bridges in my district connecting Buffalo and Niagara Falls to our great friends and family in Canada. I think our mutually shared border is just that. Aside from being the largest contiguous border in the world, the economy that we share is so important that we work together in partnership to advance.
So in that spirit, Congressman, just in closing, I want to ask you, you said earlier Canada's got a lot of friends in the United States. Do you believe that Republicans writ large are as aligned behind President Trump on these tariff issues as they are presenting publicly, or do you think there is the possibility for Canada to gain more support going forward?
Well, look, the great thing about our incredible democracy here in the United States is that these elections matter and that they are temporary, and that we have an election less than 2 years away. And this president of the United States is less than 4 years from the end of his term. So he is already a lame duck president. And this administration, working with the Republican House of Representatives and the Republican Senate, has an obligation to do what's right by the American people and the people of the globe. And when they are not treating our greatest allies the way they should, and they're treating our greatest allies like some of our greatest adversaries, that is a problem. And sadly, that's right in line with what this administration has been doing across the board. This is a issue that we are going to be holding them accountable on, not just with the tariffs, but every other issue that they're putting forward. And what I can say is my hope, and we only need 3 Republicans to have the guts and the courage to stand up against their party and buck the president to do what's right by the American people. And with that, our greatest allies to the north, Canada. So I will tell my friends and allies in Canada, stay strong, continue to work with us. Know you have many friends, partners, and champions in the United States that care about you, that love you, that recognize the history that we have as a unified North American front that should be treating each other better than this president of the United States is treating you right now. And we're going to be holding him to account.
Sir, you've been generous with your time. Thank you very much for this conversation.
My pleasure. Have a great day.
That's Democratic Congressman Tim Kennedy.